If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The story you're about to hear reveals a side of Tiger Woods few have ever seen and shows how a chance discovery can change not just one life, but many. Trust me, you won't want to miss this journey of compassion and redemption. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Tiger Woods' Jupiter Island estate, casting long golden rectangles across the immaculate marble floors. At 47, Tiger moved with the careful deliberation of a man whose body had endured multiple surgeries and the punishment of decades of professional golf. He winced slightly as he reached for his coffee mug, his back reminding him of yesterday's practice session, still pushing himself, still refusing to concede to time and injury what his determination could overcome. The house was quiet this Tuesday morning. His children were with their mother this week, and the sprawling 9,000-square-foot waterfront mansion felt particularly empty without their laughter echoing through its spaces. Tiger sipped his coffee, glancing at the schedule his assistant had prepared for the day. Physical therapy at 10, a conference call about his foundation at 11:30, then practice at the course if his back permitted. As he scrolled through emails on his phone, he became aware of soft footsteps and the subtle sounds of someone trying very hard to be unobtrusive. Eleanor, his housekeeper, had arrived and was beginning her twice-weekly routine of maintaining the immaculate order of a home that seemed too large for just one man. Tiger had hired Elena Rodriguez 6 months ago on the recommendation of his neighbor, after his previous housekeeper of many years had retired to Arizona to be closer to her grandchildren. Helena was in her early 50s, with graying hair always pulled back in a neat bun, and eyes that somehow managed to convey both warmth and reserve. She spoke English with a heavy Colombian accent, apologizing often for grammatical mistakes that Tiger barely noticed. What had struck Tiger most about Elena was her quiet efficiency. She moved through the house like a shadow, transforming spaces without seeming to disturb them. Unlike some of the staff Tiger had employed over the years, Elena never gawked at his trophies, never asked for autographs for relatives, never seemed particularly impressed by his celebrity. She was unfailingly polite, but maintained a professional distance that Tiger, guarded by nature and made more so by years in the spotlight, found refreshing. "Good morning, Mr. Woods," Eleanor said, pausing in the doorway of the kitchen, a respectful distance between them. "Morning, Elena," Tiger replied with a small smile. "How are you today?" "Very well, thank you," she answered, her hands clasped in front of her. "I will start upstairs if that is okay." Tiger nodded, and Elena disappeared with the same quiet efficiency that characterized everything she did. He returned to his emails but found his mind wandering. Despite employing Eleanor for half a year, he realized he knew almost nothing about her. Did she have children? Was she married? Did she clean other houses besides his? These basic human details had never come up in their brief, polite exchanges. Tiger frowned slightly, a flicker of discomfort passing through him. There had been a time in his life when such details wouldn't have registered at all, when the people who maintained his homes, served his meals, or carried his golf bags had existed primarily as functions rather than as complete human beings, with lives and stories of their own. His very public fall from grace, the dissolution of his marriage, the humiliating progression of injuries and surgeries, all had gradually stripped away the insulating layer of celebrity that had once separated him from the everyday world. He'd learned humility the hard way, through failure and pain and the slow, difficult climb back to redemption. Finishing his coffee, Tiger rinsed the mug and placed it in the dishwasher. His physical therapist wouldn't arrive for another hour, and he felt restless in the vast stillness of the house. He decided to head to his home gym for some light stretching to prepare for the session. As he passed the laundry room, he noticed Elena's purse on the small table by the door, a worn leather bag that had clearly seen many years of use. Something had fallen out of it onto the floor, a small bottle of pills. Without thinking, Tiger picked it up to return it to her bag and noticed the label, a strong prescription pain medication, the same one he had been prescribed after one of his back surgeries. He frowned, a flicker of concern passing through him. Was Elena in pain? She had never mentioned any health issues, had never shown any signs of discomfort as she moved efficiently through her cleaning routine. Setting the bottle back in her purse, Tiger felt a twinge of guilt for the inadvertent invasion of privacy. Elena's medical needs were none of his business. Yet as he continued to his gym, the question lingered in his mind, adding to his growing awareness of how little he knew about this woman who had been in his home every week for months. Tiger's physical therapy session was grueling as always. His therapist, a former military physical therapist who approached Tiger's rehabilitation with unyielding precision, pushed him through a series of exercises designed to strengthen the muscles supporting his surgically repaired back. By the time they finished, Tiger was drenched in sweat, and the familiar pain had dulled to a manageable ache, a good sign that the session had been effective without crossing into damaging territory. After showering and changing, Tiger headed downstairs for his conference call. As he passed the guest bedroom that Elena was cleaning, he heard a soft sound that made him pause. Was she crying? He hesitated outside the door, uncertain whether to intrude. Then he heard her speaking softly in Spanish, apparently on a phone call. Though he couldn't understand the words, the distress in her voice was unmistakable. Tiger moved on, not wanting to eavesdrop, but the sound of Elena's muffled sorrow stayed with him through his conference call about the Tiger Woods Foundation's latest educational initiatives. He found himself only half listening to the discussion of budgets and outreach strategies, his mind returning to the prescription bottle and the sound of Elena's tears. When the call ended, Tiger noticed that the house had fallen silent. He checked his watch. It was just past 1 o'clock when Elena typically took her lunch break. On an impulse he couldn't fully explain, Tiger walked to the window overlooking the circular driveway at the front of the house. He saw Elena emerging from the side entrance, car keys in hand, heading toward her vehicle. An aging Toyota Corolla that looked out of place among the luxury cars that usually occupied the driveways on this exclusive stretch of Jupiter Island. Thought occurred to Tiger then, so unexpected that it nearly made him laugh out loud. He would follow her. The idea was absurd, a bizarre reversal of the days when photographers had followed him, documenting his every move. What possible reason could he have for trailing his housekeeper during her lunch break? And yet, the impulse persisted, driven by a concern he couldn't quite articulate and a curiosity about this woman whose quiet presence had become part of the rhythm of his home. Before he could talk himself out of it, Tiger grabbed his keys and sunglasses. He pulled a baseball cap low over his eyes, his usual attempt at anonymity. Though at 6'1" with his distinctive features, true anonymity had always been elusive. He slipped out to the garage, opting for the least conspicuous of his vehicles, a black SUV with tinted windows. By the time Tiger reached the end of his long driveway, Elena's Toyota was just turning right at the community entrance. He followed at a discreet distance, feeling increasingly ridiculous, but unable to abandon the impromptu mission. What was he doing? What did he expect to discover? This wasn't like him at all. Tiger had always valued his privacy so fiercely that he respected others by default. Yet something about Elena's tears, about that bottle of prescription painkillers, had awakened a concern that overrode his usual boundaries. Elena drove for about 15 minutes, leaving the manicured perfection of Jupiter Island behind, passing through increasingly modest neighborhoods, until she reached an area of small aging apartment complexes and strip malls. She pulled into the parking lot of a medical building, a low beige structure with a sign identifying it as Palm Community Health Center. Tiger parked across the street, watching as Eleanor hurried inside, so she had a medical appointment during her lunch break. That explained the prescription, perhaps the tears as well. The mystery seemingly solved, Tiger knew he should leave now, should head back to his home and the schedule that awaited him. Instead, he found himself waiting, hands resting on the steering wheel, gaze fixed on the entrance to the clinic. 30 minutes passed before Eleanor emerged, accompanied by a young woman who leaned heavily on her arm. The girl appeared to be in her early 20s, thin to the point of frailty, her movements slow and pained. Even from a distance, Tiger could see the resemblance between them, the same delicate features, the same dark eyes. This must be Elena's daughter. The two women made their way slowly to Elena's car, Elena supporting much of the younger woman's weight. Once the daughter was settled in the passenger seat, Elena hurried around to the driver's side, and they pulled out of the parking lot. Tiger followed again, maintaining a careful distance. They drove only a few blocks before stopping at a pharmacy. Eleanor went inside alone, emerging 10 minutes later with a white paper bag that she placed carefully on her daughter's lap before pulling back onto the road. Their next stop was a small apartment complex, faded yellow stucco with exterior walkways leading to the individual units. Tiger parked on the street, watching as Elena helped her daughter from the car and guided her slowly up the exterior stairs to a second-floor apartment. The effort clearly taxed the young woman, who stopped several times to rest, her mother's, arm steady around her waist. As Tiger sat in his SUV, the air conditioning battling the Florida heat, he felt a growing sense of discomfort, not just at his intrusion into Elena's private life, but at what he was witnessing, a struggle so different from the carefully managed challenges of his own life. Here was a woman who cleaned his massive home twice a week, who apologized for her accented English, caring for what appeared to be a seriously ill daughter in a modest apartment that would fit in a fraction of his living room. Tiger checked his watch. Elena's lunch break had already extended well beyond the hour she typically took. He should leave now, should return to his house, and pretend this bizarre surveillance mission had never happened. Instead, he found himself getting out of the SUV, drawn by a compulsion he didn't fully understand. The exterior of the apartment building was clean, but showed signs of age. Cracked concrete, peeling paint, air conditioning units that looked at least 20 years old protruding from windows. Tiger climbed the stairs to the second floor, feeling conspicuously out of place in this environment, despite his casual clothing. He found apartment 214, where he had seen Elena and her daughter enter, and stood outside the door for a long moment, suddenly uncertain. What was he doing here? What would he say? How could he possibly explain following his housekeeper without sounding like a stalker or a suspicious employer checking up on her extended lunch break? Before he could resolve these questions, the decision was made for him. The door opened, and Elena stood there, car keys in hand, clearly preparing to leave again. Her eyes widened in shock as she recognized him. "Mr. Woods?" The surprise in her voice was tinged with alarm. "What are you? Is something wrong at the house?" Tiger felt a flush of embarrassment creep up his neck. "No, nothing's wrong, Elena. He faltered, realizing there was no reasonable explanation for his presence. "I saw the pain medication that fell from your purse this morning, and then I heard you crying and I was concerned. I followed you. I'm sorry. I know that sounds strange." Elena stared at him, clearly struggling to process this unexpected situation. From inside the apartment, a soft voice called out in Spanish. Elena responded briefly over her shoulder before stepping into the hallway, pulling the door partially closed behind her. "My daughter," she said, her voice low. "She is not well. I need to return to work now. I am sorry for taking longer break." "No, please," Tiger said quickly. "Don't worry about that. Take all the time you need. Is there anything I can do to help? With your daughter, I mean." Eleanor's expression shifted from confusion to something more complex. Pride mingled with resignation. "It is kind of you to ask, Mr. Woods, but this is not your problem. Lucia has been sick for 3 years. I take care of her." "What's wrong with her?" Tiger asked gently. Elena hesitated, then seemed to decide that the bizarre circumstances of their encounter had already breached normal employer-employee boundaries. "Lupus," she said. "Very bad case. It attacks her kidneys, her joints. Some days she cannot get out of bed. The medicines are very expensive." The pieces clicked into place for Tiger. The prescription painkillers that had fallen from Elena's purse weren't for her but for her daughter. The tears he had overheard were likely related to Lucia's condition, or perhaps to the financial strain of her treatment. "I need to go back to work now," Elena said, her professional demeanor reasserting itself. "I will make up the extra time, stay later today." "No," Tiger said firmly. "Go back to your daughter. Take the rest of the day off. With pay, of course." Elena's expression was skeptical. "That is not necessary, Mr. Woods. I can do my job." "I know you can," Tiger assured her. "You're the most efficient housekeeper I've ever had. But today, your daughter needs you more than my house needs cleaning." For a moment, Elena seemed on the verge of arguing further. But then the door behind her opened wider, and her daughter appeared, leaning against the doorframe for support. "Mama?" Lucia asked, her voice weak but her English unaccented, suggesting she had grown up in the United States. "Is everything okay?" Her gaze shifted to Tiger, and her eyes widened in recognition. Despite her obvious illness, a flush of embarrassment colored her pale cheeks. "Oh my God, you're Tiger Woods. Mom, why is Tiger Woods outside our apartment?" The absurdity of the situation seemed to hit all three of them simultaneously. Tiger found himself smiling, then chuckling, and to his surprise, Eleanor's serious expression cracked as well, a small smile transforming her face. "It's a long story," Tiger said to Lucia. "One your mother can explain. But I should go now and let you both have some privacy." He turned to Elena. "Seriously, take the day. I'll see you on Friday." Elena nodded, her professional reserve softening slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Woods." As Tiger drove back to his home, the encounter replayed in his mind. He felt embarrassed by his impulsive decision to follow Eleanor, yet he couldn't regret the insight it had given him into her life. The contrast between his sprawling waterfront estate and that small apartment, between his world-class medical care and the community health center Eleanor and Lucia relied on, was stark. Tiger had grown up in relative privilege, the son of a lieutenant, colonel in the U.S. Army, with parents who had sacrificed to nurture his extraordinary talent. But his father had made sure he understood the value of hard work, had taught him about the struggles faced by people without his advantages. Somewhere along the way, amid the tournaments and endorsement deals and global fame, some of those early lessons had become abstract, disconnected from the reality of ordinary lives. By the time Tiger reached his home, a plan had begun to form. In his mind, he spent the afternoon making phone calls to his financial advisor, to the director of his foundation, to a specialist in autoimmune disorders at the Mayo Clinic who had treated Tiger after one of his surgeries. By evening, he had set several things in motion, though he was careful to maintain a certain distance. Eleanor's pride was evident. Direct charity would likely be rejected. Friday arrived, and with it Elena's next scheduled cleaning day. Tiger made a point of being home when she arrived, greeting her in the kitchen as he had on Tuesday. "How is Lucia?" he asked after they had exchanged the usual pleasantries. A flicker of surprise crossed Eleanor's face, perhaps at the personal nature of the question, perhaps at the fact that he remembered her daughter's name. "She is the same," Elena replied carefully. "Some days better than others." Tiger nodded. "Elena, I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to talk to you about something important. Could you take a seat for a moment?" Wariness entered her expression, but she sat at the kitchen island, her hands folded in her lap. "Is there a problem with my work, Mr. Woods?" "No, not at all," Tiger assured her quickly. "Your work is excellent. This is about something else." He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. The Tiger Woods Foundation has primarily focused on educational initiatives for underprivileged youth, but we're expanding our mission to include a medical assistance program for families facing extraordinary healthcare costs. Elena listened politely, clearly not seeing how this related to her. "The program will provide financial support for treatments, medications and specialized care that might otherwise be unaffordable," Tiger continued. "We're starting with a pilot group of 10 recipients, focusing on chronic conditions that require ongoing care." Understanding began to dawn in Elena's eyes, along with a hint of resistance. "Mr. Woods, one of the requirements," Tiger pressed on gently, "is that recipients or their family members must be employed by businesses or individuals who support the foundation. As my employee, you and your daughter would qualify, if you're interested, of course." Elena was silent for a long moment, her expression a complex mixture of hope and doubt. "This program," she said finally, "it exists already? It is not something you created just because of what you saw on Tuesday?" Tiger had anticipated this question. "The expansion has been in development for months," he said, which was true, though the specific focus on chronic conditions like lupus had been added more recently. "Your situation made me realize we should accelerate the launch." Eleanor studied his face, searching for signs of pity or condescension. Finding none, she asked, "What would this mean for Lucia?" "Exactly." "Comprehensive. Coverage for all her lupus-related medical needs," Tiger explained. "Access to specialists, medications, treatments, whatever her doctors recommend, plus practical support like transportation to appointments and home health care when needed." "And what would be expected from us in return?" Elena's directness was refreshing, reminding Tiger of his own mother's no-nonsense approach to life. Only that Lucia, when she's feeling well enough, might share her story to help raise awareness for the program, Tiger said. No public appearances required, maybe just a written testimonial or a video that she can record at home. Elena was quiet again, absorbing this information. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion she was clearly trying to control. Mr. Woods, this is very generous, but I need to discuss with Lucia. She is an adult, 23 years old. These decisions we make together. Of course, Tiger agreed immediately. Take all the time you need to think about it. The offer won't expire. Eleanor nodded, then rose from the stool, visibly gathering her professional demeanor around her again. I should begin my work now. Actually, Tiger said, I've arranged for a cleaning service to cover today. I was hoping you might be willing to introduce me to Lucia properly. Not as a strange man showing up unannounced at your door, but as someone who would like to understand more about her condition and how the foundation might help. Elena's surprise was evident, but after a moment's consideration she nodded. Lucia would like that, I think. She has followed your career since she was little. Her father... She stopped abruptly, something painful crossing her face before she continued. Her father used to play golf. Not professional, but he loved the game. He would watch you on TV with Lucia on his lap, explaining everything. It was the first personal detail Elena had ever shared about herself, and Tiger received it with appropriate gravity. I'd be honored to meet her, he said simply. The drive to Elena's apartment was different this time. No furtive following, just Tiger, in the passenger seat of Elena's Toyota, making casual conversation about the Florida weather and the traffic. Eleanor seemed to relax incrementally as they drove, as if the familiar task of navigating the roads helped normalize the unusual situation of having her famous employer sitting beside her. When they arrived at the apartment, Lucia was waiting, clearly having been forewarned about the visit. She had made an effort with her appearance, her long dark hair neatly brushed, a touch of makeup bringing color to her pale face. She sat on the couch, a blanket over her legs despite the warm day, but she straightened as they entered, extending her hand to Tiger with a smile that transformed her tired face. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Woods, she said, her voice stronger than it had been during their brief encounter on Tuesday. I'm sorry about the weird circumstances the other day. Tiger shook her hand gently, noting how fragile it felt in his. Please call me Tiger, and I'm the one who should apologize for showing up unannounced. Not my finest moment. Lucia laughed, a sound that seemed to lighten the atmosphere of the small apartment. It's not every day a sporting legend stalks my mom. We've been trying to figure out how to explain it to people without sounding like we're making it up. Tiger smiled, appreciating her humor. Maybe we can come up with a more dignified version of events. Eleanor had disappeared into the kitchen, and Tiger could hear her preparing coffee or tea. He took the opportunity to glance around the apartment. It was small but immaculately clean and thoughtfully arranged to accommodate Lucia's limited mobility. A hospital-style table that could be pulled over the couch, a walker positioned nearby, medications organized on a shelf within easy reach. Photos lined one wall, Lucia in a graduation cap and gown, Elena and Lucia with a man who must have been Lucia's father. Lucia in a soccer uniform, looking healthy and vibrant in a way that made the contrast with her current state all the more poignant. My mom says your foundation might be able to help with my medical expenses, Lucia said directly, bringing Tiger's attention back to her. Is that really true? Tiger appreciated her straightforwardness. Yes, it's true. We're expanding our mission to include medical support for families dealing with chronic conditions. Your mother's connection to me makes you eligible. Lucia studied him with intelligent eyes that reminded Tiger of Elena's careful assessment in his kitchen earlier. Can I ask why? Why expand beyond now? It was a perceptive question, one that made Tiger consider his answer carefully. The foundation has always been about creating access to opportunities that might otherwise be out of reach, he said finally. We started with education because that was the focus my parents instilled in me. But over the years, I've come to understand that health is just as fundamental to opportunity. The best education in the world doesn't help if you're too sick to use it. Lucia nodded, seemingly satisfied with his response. And you're not doing this just because you feel sorry for us? Lucia, Eleanor admonished gently as she returned with a tray holding 3 cups of coffee. It's a fair question, Tiger said. And no, it's not about pity. It's about recognizing that talent and potential exist everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. Your mother mentioned you were in college before your condition worsened. Lucia nodded. Pre-med at University of Florida. I wanted to become a rheumatologist, actually. Ironic, right? Her smile was wry. I had to withdraw when the lupus flared badly during my junior year. That was 3 years ago. And if your health improved, would you go back? In a heartbeat, Lucia said without hesitation. I still study on my own when I can. Keep my mind sharp, you know. Tiger did know. During the darkest periods of his injuries, when golf had seemed permanently beyond his reach, he had focused obsessively on the intellectual aspects of the game, on strategy and course management, keeping his connection to the sport alive even when his body couldn't perform. Then consider this an investment, Tiger said. Not charity. The foundation invests in potential, always has. Your mother works harder than anyone I've ever employed, and you clearly have both intelligence and determination. That's exactly the kind of potential we want to support. The conversation flowed more easily after that, with Lucia explaining the complexities of her condition and the challenges of navigating the healthcare system with limited resources. Tiger listened attentively, asking questions that revealed a deeper understanding of chronic illness than either Elena or Lucia might have expected. Knowledge gained through his own experiences with pain management and rehabilitation. As the afternoon progressed, the initial awkwardness gave way to a surprisingly comfortable exchange. Elena gradually joined the conversation more fully, her reserved demeanor softening as she shared details about their life. How she had come to the United States from Colombia 25 years ago. How she had raised Lucia alone after her husband's death from a heart attack when Lucia was 12, how they had managed before Lucia's diagnosis, and the struggle since. When it was time for Tiger to leave, he felt as if he had glimpsed a world both utterly different from his own and yet familiar in its fundamental humanity. The love between mother and daughter, the dignity in the face of adversity, the perseverance against seemingly insurmountable odds. These were values he recognized, ones his parents had instilled in him, ones he had tried to maintain even at the height of his fame and success. I'll have the foundation director contact you next week with the details, Tiger said as Eleanor walked him to the door. In the meantime, if there's anything either of you need, please don't hesitate to call. My personal number is on this card. He handed Eleanor a simple business card with a private line that very few people had access to. Eleanor accepted it with a nod of acknowledgement. Thank you, Mr. Woods, not just for the help, but for seeing us, really seeing us. The words stayed. With Tiger during the Uber ride back to his home, he had insisted Elena not drive him, allowing her to spend the remainder of the day with Lucia, really seeing us. How many people had he encountered over the years without truly seeing them? How many Elenas and Lucias had moved through his periphery, their struggles and strengths invisible to him as he focused on his own goals and challenges, Buridu. The following months, the relationship between Tiger, Elena, and Lucia evolved in ways none of them could have anticipated. Through the Foundation's new medical initiative, Lucia gained access to specialists who adjusted her treatment plan, gradually bringing her condition under better control. Elena continued to work for Tiger, but he insisted on reducing her hours while maintaining her full salary, giving her more time to care for Lucia and, eventually, to enroll in English classes at the local community college. Tiger found himself stopping by their apartment occasionally, sometimes bringing books for Lucia on topics ranging from medical research to golf psychology, sometimes just sitting with them for an hour, enjoying the simple pleasure of conversation unrelated to his career or public persona. On days when Lucia felt well enough, he would take them both to dinner at quiet restaurants where he knew the owners would respect his privacy. During one such dinner, nearly a year after his impulsive decision to follow Eleanor from his home, Lucia shared exciting news. Her doctors believed she was stable enough to return to her studies, perhaps starting with online courses before transitioning back to campus life. I've been accepted to re-enroll for the spring semester, she said, her face alight with the kind of joy that transformed her from merely pretty to radiant. Part-time at first, but it's a start. That's wonderful, Tiger said sincerely. Your mother must be thrilled. Worried and thrilled, Elena corrected with a small smile. Always worried, it is a mother's job. I was thinking, Lucia said, a hint of hesitation entering her voice, that when I finish my degree I might like to work for the Foundation someday. Use my medical knowledge to help expand the program that helped me. If that would be possible, Tiger felt an unexpected tightness in his chest, a complex emotion he couldn't immediately identify. Pride, perhaps, or a deeper satisfaction than any tournament victory had provided in recent years. I think that would be perfect, he said simply. Later that night, as Tiger moved through his quiet house, still too large for one person but somehow less empty than it had once felt, he found himself standing before the wall of framed achievements that chronicled his extraordinary career. Major championship trophies, tournament victories, records broken and rebroken, the tangible evidence of a life dedicated to excellence in his chosen field. He was proud of these accomplishments, of the discipline and determination they represented. But in the past year, his understanding of legacy had shifted. The Foundation's medical initiative had expanded beyond the initial pilot program, now supporting dozens of families facing circumstances similar to Elena and Lucia's. The impact was measurable not in trophies or headlines, but in lives transformed, in potential unlocked, in dignity restored. Tiger thought back to that Tuesday morning when he had made the impulsive decision to follow Elena, driven by a curiosity and concern he couldn't explain even to himself. How strange that such a small moment, such an unlikely choice could lead to such profound consequences. Not just for Elena and Lucia, but for himself as well. In seeing them, really seeing them, he had gained a perspective on his own life that no amount of success or failure on the golf course could have provided. His phone chimed with a text message. It was from Lucia, a follow-up to their dinner conversation. Thank you for believing in me before I could believe in myself again. That's a gift no foundation could ever formalize. Tiger smiled as he typed his response. The privilege has been entirely mine. And it had been. For all that his support had meant to Elena and Lucia, what they had given him in return was equally valuable, a reminder of the humanity that connected him to others, a recalibration of what truly mattered, a glimpse of a legacy beyond golf that might, in the final accounting, prove to be his most enduring achievement. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. These small actions help us reach more people with stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the unexpected ways we can change each other's lives. Till next time, remember that sometimes the most profound discoveries happen when we truly see the people right in front of us.